I thought it was funny when I put out my top 10 quarterback list. And I saw also that the NFL executives put out a top 10 quarterback list. And in both, Lamar Jackson was missing. I got a lot of pushback. What about Lamar Jackson? Well, what about him? Justin Herbert has set NFL records for passing in the first 2 years. Joe Burrow got to a Super Bowl. Kyler Murray is a better thrower of the football. If you had a minute 30 left and you were trailing, would you want Derek Carr or Lamar Jackson? Derek Carr leads the NFL in fourth quarter comebacks since 2014. Lamar Jackson has often struggled to play from behind. Everybody wants their quarterback to be on the list. The truth is, I am a huge fan of Lamar Jackson, but you have eyes, I have eyes. He's a downhill player. He plays better with a lead than trailing. And the quarterbacks I put on my list play well behind or leading. But it's funny about it. We all know it's true. There's about 6 great quarterbacks in the league. Does any NFL GM really believe Lamar Jackson, as insanely clever as he can be, is one of those quarterbacks? There's a narrative on Lamar. He's not as good in the postseason as he is in the regular season, and he plays better with a lead than he does from behind. And in the NFL, unlike college, even if you're on a good team, you often play from behind. Look at Mahomes. He's played from behind a lot, and that's the Chiefs. When Lamar broke into the league, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Kyler Murray weren't the quarterbacks they are today. Derek Carr hadn't overcome the John Gruden fiasco yet. Ask yourself this. Can you be a top 10 quarterback in the league if you're not the best quarterback in your division? If you could start a franchise with Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson today, wouldn't you take Burrow? I think everybody in the league would. If you could start your team off-field issues aside with Deshaun or Lamar Jackson, I think half of you would take Deshaun Watson. How can you be a top 10 quarterback in the league when you're arguably the third best quarterback in your division? I like Lamar Jackson, but I'm always bewildered by people that are upset when he doesn't make a top 10 list. I don't care about MVPs. That's not how you make a top 10 list. And I think some of the market for Kevin Durant is that we know he's great, but we don't know what he's thinking. And we have to give up so much to get him. Are you surprised the market? I mean, Phoenix now may do a sign and trade with the Pacers, meaning they're out of the Kevin Durant market. Are you surprised the market has dried up?
I'm not, because like that, nothing like having to give up 5 picks reminds you he's 34, right? Like it's like, wait a second, this isn't 26-year-old KD. And if you're going to give up that much, now you start looking for warts, right? It's like, hey, man, I really want this. I like it. But once you see the price, now at that point, you're thinking of reasons not to buy it. And Kevin Durant's got some reasons, right? Like, as great as he is, he's got some reasons. I do think you're right, though. There's a difference between like respect and adoration, right? People respect his game, but you don't feel this massive, I will fight you in the streets for his name and his honor, right? Like you feel with some other stars. And I do think he has a role in that, right? I do think like the movement has a part of it, but I also think like he constantly tells people, you don't know what I'm thinking. You don't know what makes me happy. Well, it's like, yo, I kind of don't actually. So it's hard to like know you, right? His story doesn't get like, I think his story is incredible, and I don't think it gets told enough. Like his road to this point, it's kind of like, whatever, but it's really a great story about a dude who made it kind of from nothing and used basketball to keep himself sane and safe. But you're right. Like you got to be able to hug him emotionally, spiritually. You got to be able to be with him. And he spent the last, 5-6 years telling you why you don't have that relationship with him. So I do think that's different. Yep. And I think all parties can have some responsibility in that, including him. But some people, though, there are some players who don't deserve such fans and have them, right? Like people like Russell Westbrook fans will fight you in the streets about Russell Westbrook, right? James Harden fans will go in on you. They're finding your address because you don't get to talk about James Harden like that, right? I do think there's a price to pay, because as great as KD is, he should have that in droves, right? But something is not connected in that way.
The one place, now that Baker Mayfield's off the market, the one place that felt like it would work for Jimmy G was Tampa, because he's such a good soldier. He's such a good guy that Brady may have more trouble with him than Jimmy would have being a backup to Brady. But now that Brady's going to leave after the year, it's like, I think it'll all be simpatico. Like, it's, Tom's not threatened by him, and Jimmy is going to get paid a lot of money to be in a really good football team. So there was a story, Sports Illustrated reported the Bucs and Jimmy G. What do you make of it?
I mean, it would make some sense, right? If you factor in that they don't really have, I mean, they would have been screwed. If Tom retired this year, what were they going to do? I mean, they were in major, major trouble. Like you said, I mean, he's either going to the Miami Dolphins next year or he's calling it quits. I mean, it's pretty clear. I think Jimmy's in a weird spot because he's clearly good enough to be a starter at several places.
Right.
But, the musical chairs have all ended. And now that Baker, part of the reason to me Baker's there is because Jimmy is a much more reliable human, clearly, but he's expensive. They're paying Baker, guaranteed the $3 million. Then depending on how he plays, it might be a little more.
It's nothing.
It's nothing. Jimmy is on the books for, if someone trades for him, unless he does some maneuvering, I think it's almost $27 million. So that's not the $50 million quarterback, but that's not even the $18 million that Sam and Baker, are both on the hook for. Now, obviously Baker's getting split up. 18 is a lot less than 27, when you talk about it's, middle of July. So if Tampa, the thing is though, Jimmy's contract ends, right? It's only one more year. Now it would make sense. Tampa's a good spot. Jason Light, New England guy. They have some connections. Jimmy's a good guy and he's a solid player, not a great player, not a bad player. I think you're really getting a good player or a good person who you feel comfortable can just get you through some stuff while you figure other things out.
Yeah, I could see them saying, listen, get into our system, watch Tom for a year like you did in New England. Tom's leaving the second the season's over, and we'll give you 2 years at the helm. I could see them making a deal, and I could see Jimmy G being comfortable with that. He's just the kind of guy that it would work. You know a lot about the Niners. So Mike Silver was on this week, and his report was he had heard, and fans only want rose-colored glasses when you talk about their team. If you ever criticize their team, I mean, I've been making fun of the Raiders for 20 years. I've been right 20 straight years, except last year. And, but Trey Lance, optically, it's an ugly release. It is not pretty. He's not a high completion guy. He's never going to be Drew Brees. There's stories of arm fatigue. I trust my sources. They're keeping Jimmy G around. I think they believe that I think they believe Trey Lance can win games in this system. It's a really favorable quarterback system. Matt Schaub made a Pro Bowl in this. Matt Ryan was an MVP. Jimmy Garoppolo won 70% of its games. You're not needing Josh Allen here, guy hurdling over people. No. Lamar Jackson making plays with his feet. This is really built. Just don't pull the Mercedes into a tree. It is a little concerning, isn't it, when you hear various reporters, and I trust my sources that they do worry a little about his accuracy.
Yeah, I thought the games that he played last year were not pretty, but if you were going to give him somewhat of a pass, right, small school guy that had the season wiped out, hadn't played, so he was going to get this offseason. And I went to a lot of the OTA practices. I would say he's improved, but the arm release is still a work in progress. That is something Kyle kind of downplayed it, like it's not a big deal. They are working on it. I had been told in the offseason before the practices, he was trying to shorten up. And there were moments at practice where it's like, oh, that looked very compact, got out of, and then there were it's just muscle memory. So you resort. Josh Allen has a loopier release, but he gets rid of it fast. There's a difference between having a longer release and still getting rid of it quickly and a longer release. Tebow's the worst case that takes a long time. Sam Darnold has a long loopy release. Right. Now, the thing that differentiates Trey from like Sam, for example, he does have power behind it. Now, to me, down the field, he's playing on a team, Colin, he has the best left tackle. He has arguably the best play caller, one of the best 2 or 3. He has a ton of running backs. He has a Pro Bowl fullback, a Pro Bowl tight end, a Pro Bowl wide receiver. Brandon Ayuk's good. Juwan Jennings is going to be a good player. It's a perfect situation for the guy. They're going to run the ball a ton. They just need him to be. Jimmy wasn't at his moments last year. He's not replacing Tom Brady here, right? Or Aaron Rodgers. So the bar is not as high, I think, as we act. Now, where the bar is high, the team's good. And the team expects to win double-digit games, compete in the playoffs, which is always difficult. You know, if you go back to Russell Wilson, right, and it was different circumstances because he was a third-round pick. They played defense and they ran the ball, and then he slowly became the star. I think ultimately it's kind of they want that trajectory, right? Play good defense, run the ball, probably have more weapons in terms of throwing the ball than Russell did early on in his career. But to me, that's going to be Kyle's mindset.